All right, we can kick things off. Maren, do you want to start with introductions?
Yes, thank you, Emma. Oceoni God, my name is Maren Morfitt. I am the writer-researcher at NLAP. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation living in Oklahoma, and I'm very excited to be a part of this webinar with you guys today. I can pass it to Ode.
Hi, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all. My name is Ode Shanae. I'm the Executive Director of Village Earth. I'm from a Celtic nation called Brittany in the northwestern France. I relocated there recently in 2021, but I've spent quite a bit of time since 2009 working with Native nations and specifically co-founding and working on the Native Land Advocacy Project and the Native Land Information System. And yes, it's my great pleasure to see you all here. It's our third, sorry, part three of our webinar series. And I'm excited to that you see all what we all got going on today with the USDA Cropland data layer. So I'll pass it on to Emma.
Thank you. Dullahan, hello. My name is Emma Shear. I'm a citizen of the Tolowa Dene Nation and the Communications Director of the Native Lands Advocacy Project. Yeah, as my colleagues have said, we're excited to have you all here. We've been doing a kind of mini series that we've been calling our Keystone Data Tools for Native Land Planning. We have a lot of resources on our site, and these Keystone tools are tools that are really foundational that can be built off of in a variety of ways for a variety of different planning purposes. So it's been a pleasure to kind of introduce users to them and provide some more interactive and more visual tutorials. We know those are really helpful for people. The first webinar in this series was on the USDA Census of Agriculture for American Indian Reservations. The second webinar was on the National Land Cover Database. And today we'll be talking about the Cropland data layer and a tool we've developed, a dashboard we've developed that we call our What's Growing on Native Lands dashboard. And so yeah, as always, we are recording this webinar. So if you have to hop out early or if you want to share it with someone after the fact, we'll be emailing out a link within the week. So you'll be able to do that. We also, as always, will have time for Q&A at the end. So if at any point you have a question, please feel free to drop that right in the Q&A box, or we'll have our contact info on our last slide as well. But we can go to the next slide, and we always start with a little bit of background about who we are, just so if you're unfamiliar, you have some more context. The Native Lands Advocacy Project is a project of the 501c3 nonprofit Village Earth. Village Earth was founded in '93, really with this mission of helping connect grassroots communities to the resources they need for their own self-determination and empowerment. And so Village Earth works with communities around the world, but through working in the US with tribes, came to realize that data access, or rather a lack of access to data, is a major barrier for tribal self-determination and informed decision-making. And so from that recognition, the Native Lands Advocacy Project was founded in 2019. And we have kind of two main streams of activity. We do consultation and contract work with tribes, tribal citizens, or intertribal groups, providing various forms of data support, whether that's processing private data or kind of building custom data packages, performing feasibility studies, that kind of thing. But our more visible stream of activity is maintaining the Native Land Information System, which is our website at nativeland.info. And so we can go to the next slide. On the NLIS, we have currently over 120, although I think we're due for a recount. Currently over 120 free and public resources related to agriculture and rangeland management, climate adaptation and mitigation, and land tenure and historical documentation. We don't publish private tribal data. What we do is we process public data sets that would be useful for tribal planning purposes, but kind of in their existing formats aren't very accessible. We process those data sets for tribal geographies with tribal priorities in mind. And all of those resources are free on our site, free to use. We did recently just launch a sponsorship program, so we don't charge our users for access to our data tools, but if you work with an organization and your mission aligns with ours and you'd be interested in supporting our work, you can contact us about that sponsorship program. But today we're talking about a tool that we've built using the Cropland data layer. And so I will pass to Ode to talk about that data set itself and kind of where it comes from.
Thank you, Emma. If you can just pass to the next slide, please, Lauren. Right, so this is the dashboard that we built for the Cropland data layer, and we've been adding years over the years. But the idea really was that's a satellite-based data set that had no nationwide processing for tribal geographies. And so instead of, this was one of our foundational tool, and basically we realized that instead of processing it for just one tribal geography with modern GIS, we could just do that for all tribal geographies as they sit in the ANH CE, the AN boundary files. And so what we did is we processed this layer on the NLI. We published it on the NLIS, sorry, and we also have a corresponding maps that's located in our maps. So this is more for the distribution of crop and land covers identified for all native lands. As usual in our tools, you can select your native land area of preference and select the year as well, along with navigating the different menu items. The land cover change allows you to see change over years, and then you have the data tables, and you can also export it to your liking. But I think Emma has like a detailed video that shows that more in details. If you can go to the next slide, please. So a little bit about this data set. The Cropland data layer is produced annually by the USDA NASS, National Agricultural Statistics Service, and it's crop-specific raster-based, which means it's usually based on satellite information, georeferenced land cover data set for the continental United States. It's designed to support agricultural monitoring, land planning, and research by providing detailed, up-to-date information on land use and crop distribution. Next slide, please. Yes. So the specificities, it's high spatial resolution. So previous to the 2024 release, the spatial resolution was 30 meter standard, which is now 10 meter spatial resolution. So that's really great. And we really hope to integrate that next update to our dashboard very soon to allow for more precise mapping and analysis of cropland. So I think that's going to be a great update to look out for in the future. It's updated annually, which is great, and it's also and it's based off two different satellite, the Landsat and the Sentinel. But it's high. They call it moderate resolution satellite imagery because it still needs more of that ground proofing. So they do have an extensive ground truth data processes through their own agricultural surveys. We still have a hard time identifying how much of that is done, and so we have some limitations to discuss. But some of the other specificities are the crop-specific classifications. So this data set categorizes land cover into as many as 85 standardized classes, and that has a strong emphasis on agricultural crops, which comes with advantages and drawbacks. But most states' data set use 10 to 20 categories, although all major US commodities are included. Since 2008, the CDL has covered the entire United States, but there's also historical data that's available for many states dating back to 1997. The CDL imagery is great in the fact that it's in a public domain, it's free to access, free to redistribute, and use for research planning and analysis. And it also had this huge advantages of being available nationwide, which really allowed us to process it for all tribal geographies. Next slide, please. So in terms of capabilities for land planning, as Emma was saying, is called a Keystone tool for a reason, because you can do a wide variety of things just from the basic tool and then from the enriched tools that we created off of it. So the first thing you can do with the CDL is kind of acreage estimation. It provides crop-specific acreage estimates for major commodities. You can also do land use and land cover analysis because you can monitor change over time and evaluate the impact of land management practices, which we've definitely explored in our enriched tools. The annual nature of the CDL allows users to track crop rotations, which we've also used in further tools, land conversion, for instance, cropland to urban, and the effect of extreme weather or policy change on agricultural landscapes. One of the great thing is its geospatial integration, which is also why we're using it, but it can be combined with other spatial data, such as soil, water, infrastructure layers. We're definitely going to explore more of that even in the near future. And it can be used for support for sustainability and biodiversity. So it's valuable for studies that are related to agricultural sustainability, biodiversity conservation, and ecosystem services, because it provides a consistent, spatially explicit record of crop patterns and land cover. Next slide, please. Thanks. In terms of limitations, there's some issues regarding classification accuracy. The CDL reports high accuracy for major crops, but there's misclassification that can occur, especially at field boundaries in between fields or for minor crops. It really needs to have some ongoing research and refinement to improve its reliability. The validation with ground data is present in the CDL, but it definitely needs more. That's why they recommended best use for state or regional scale analysis rather than detailed field level decision making due to the raster resolution, although that's going to increase with the 10 meter and the classification approach. And then something else we added in terms of the limitation, there's inherent biases towards commodity crop agriculture. So while the CDL proves accurate for major crop distribution, its inability to grasp small-scale production or minor crops causes biases towards traditional crops and agricultural practices. So at the tribal level, for best result, we recommend that the CDL should be used in addition to culturally appropriate and locally specific data collection, specific to each reservation. And I'll pass it back on to Emma.
This is me. Yeah. Thanks, Ode. Yeah, so I always like to start right from our website homepage. If you've been at any of our webinars, you know that. So this is the homepage of our website, nativeland.info. If you're looking for this tool, of course, you can use the search bar. That works very effectively. But this is under our dashboard category. And then the next page shows just you kind of scroll through our dashboards. And there it is, what's growing on US native lands. And the next slide is kind of the default view of the dashboard. So you saw this earlier, but by default, it's selected to, all native land areas in the US, and the year 2022, which is the most recent year, we're working on updating it. As Ode talked about, a lot of excitement about the new 10 meter by 10 meter resolution and the potential that has for more accurate data. We're excited to get that updated in here, but the most current year right now is 2022. And you can see all those different classes of land cover. In fact, if you go to the next slide, it's our first video. Kind of scroll through some of these crop and land covers, but there's a lot of them. If you were at our last webinar for the land cover database, the layout of this dashboard is going to look pretty familiar to you, so we can filter here. Today, we'll be looking at the Flanger Reservation in South Dakota. The scale of this reservation is really useful for seeing these changes in the crop cover. So that map automatically adjusts. You can see the reservation boundaries there. We'll just kind of scroll through this pie chart. So again, this is the 2022 data, and it's showing each of these crop types and land cover types, their acreage, and the percentage of the total land area that acreage takes up. Can also directly interact with and explore the map view on the left. So we can kind of zoom in on an area of interest. We'll just go kind of near the bottom right here. And this really allows you to see that currently the 30 meter by 30 meter resolution, these different kind of pixels of land cover types. So this lets you get a more granular view of how these lands are being classified. You could search for a specific address or a latitude longitude point if you wanted to look at like a very specific area. And then that home button just takes us back to the main zoom level. The next slide will show us just going through the video's replaying. The next slide, you can go ahead and pause it real quick, Marin. Sorry. We're just going to go through each year of the data set in this slide. And you'll see the map view on the left obviously adjust. The different crop types are going to shift. The pie chart automatically adjusts to reflect that data. And also the legend adjusts. So the legend there on the bottom is organized by the kind of dominant crop and land cover types. So you'll see those adjust as well. But I didn't want to talk over the whole video, so you can go ahead and play it now. Just kind of observe the changes. So you can see that obviously the crop and land covers are changing over time. The second tab of this dashboard, again, if you were with us for our land cover webinar, this will look familiar, but the second tab of the dashboard allows you to really see the change over time. We can go ahead and click over to that next slide. This is replaying. So we'll first just take a look at kind of these dominant land cover and crop types. So we have soybeans, corn, alfalfa, the grasslands as well. That way, when we go over to land cover change, we can kind of look at those dominant land cover and crop types and how they've changed over time. So again, it's still set to that same reservation. It's showing a graph of all the years of data. So this is the grassland. This is a land cover, but of course it interacts with and is impacted by croplands. So you can see those trends for each year, how it's changed. Look at soybeans next. Soybeans are a common cover crop, so that may explain the fluctuations here, or perhaps there's another reason, but you can see kind of some dramatic shifts between years. Corn, another one of those common crop covers that we saw in the first tab. The graph, as you can see, is interactive. You can mouse over each data point to see those exact numbers. Or that table in the bottom is also displaying the acreage and the percent change from previous years. Here's alfalfa. This is the last one we'll look at in this demo, which is idle cropland. So you can see that, you can observe these changes over time, but you can also, I think, begin to see how you can use these in tandem with that first tab view as well. So if you're seeing kind of an interesting trend in certain crop or land covers and you want to see where those are happening, and how, those specific areas are shifting from previous years, you can go back to that first tab and look at the map and really explore those areas. And then finally, the next slide is the third tab, which is the Yeah, the third tab is the data tables tab. So we try to build this into most, if not all of our tools. This is a pretty simple video, just kind of going through it, but this just provides direct access to the numbers. So still filtered for that reservation for the year 2022. You could filter it for, whatever year you're interested in, and you could also isolate specific crop and land cover types if you wanted. But this gives you direct access to those specific acreage numbers. There's just a little scroll through of all the different crop and land cover types. There's quite a few. And then I wanted to show as well, down on the bottom, we have some buttons that's the download button. You can download the image of the current view you're looking at in different file types, or you can also, using that share button, grab a link and share a link with someone. We also have this, export to image button in the top here that most of our tools actually don't have because of that download button at the bottom. It does the same thing, it's just a little bit more flashy. It's a bit more maybe intuitive. It basically takes a screenshot of whatever view you're using at the moment. So I clicked it, you can't see, but the next slide shows there we go. This slide, this just shows the image that downloaded when I clicked it in that recording. So whatever view you happen to be looking at the moment, it'll download that to your computer. So it's a nice way to capture, whatever you're looking at if you want to save it for your files. But that is, just a quick demo of the tool, pretty straightforward. We again are talking about this as a Keystone tool, really for building off of. And so I'm going to pass back to Ode to talk about a variety of ways that we've used these data to perform other analyses of land use and crop use. You can go to the next slide, Maren.
Thank you so much, Emma. Yeah, so you've seen all the ways that the Cropland data layer as itself, as a Keystone data tool, can be super useful for planning. We also have corresponding maps that are looking at the satellite information. So this can be really complementary as it is. But we also have used it as Keystone data to build upon for our other projects. And I'm just gonna use the words of our former researcher here, Raven, who worked on a story map in this regard. And she said, although many of these public data sets are still structured in a way that does not satisfy indigenous indicators of land health, tribes can still leverage the USDA data to their benefit. And I think that really captures what we've tried to do, building upon this. And the way we've looked at it was, okay, well, if the CDL as it is may not capture or does not satisfy these indicators, how could we enrich it so that it does? And the way we've done it is in a few different, we've done a few different things with it. The first thing we did is use it to come up with a monocropping alert indicator. And that one is basically looking at using the CDL to assess the scale of non-rotated crops. And we use it over a period of 4 years, but that's really kind of assessing monocropping and helping identify when monocropping might occur. And we have that present as an indicator in an indicator form in our food system transition index to be looked at in our site as well. The other thing we've been building up as an indicator in AFSTI, but also to be further developed into its own tool, is the eco footprint of agriculture. And that one's a pretty cutting edge calculation. What we did is we wanted to assess the greenhouse gas emissions of agriculture, really down to each reservation level. And what we did is we combined that CDL basically with GHG estimates per crop to come down with, to basically be able to have estimate pretty accurate estimates actually of the GHG emissions of agriculture. So that's a pretty useful tool, but we need to really work on it to develop it as a standalone, because right now it's just an indicator in the FSTI. Next slide, please. And in two of the tools that we've developed, and these one, you will find one of them published, the crop diversity indicator. That one we've developed as a standalone tool, and you can find it as a dashboard on our site. And it provides an estimate of crop diversity, again, for each reservation. What we did is we applied a Simpson index of diversity. It's usually used in ecological calculations, but we can definitely apply it to the CDL, and that's what we did. And that gives you kind of an idea of the crop diversity happening in agriculture for each reservation, knowing again that it doesn't capture small-scale production and traditional crops. So there might be some inherent bias regarding that, but that's still kind of the only one you'll find around that's looking at this and providing that estimate. So another one we've come up with that's proved pretty useful, though you will not find this one published, but please reach out to us if you're interested in knowing more about this one, is our carrying capacity dashboard. And what we did is that we took a very cutting edge research calculation that's looking at 10 different diet scenarios and what land base is needed to be able to produce food to satisfy these 10 different diet scenarios based on demographics. And so what this carrying capacity dashboard does is that it really assesses the number of people that could be fed from a reservation's land base. And it provides those estimates for these 10 different diet scenarios so that you can pick and choose the one that fits most your needs and maybe cross and compare what possible agricultural scenarios are best fitting those needs. And so it's really an interesting tool for leveraging, and it can be really used for land planning and agricultural planning. So please reach out to us if you're interested in knowing more about this one. We do not publish it for basically sensitivity issues around this particular information, and because it's so specific to tribes, to each tribe, and we just didn't want to release that data publicly, but we'll be happy to accommodate your needs if you reach out to us. Next slide, please. And I'll pass it back on to Emma.
Yeah, this is our final slide. So we have still about 15 minutes. We're wrapping up a little early today. 15 minutes we'll stay on for if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer. We also have a very brief poll I'm going to launch now that we'd love to have you share answers for. If you only have an answer to one of the questions, that's fine. We won't be reading out the answers in this webinar. They're really just to help our decision making as we move forward. You can see these two questions on the left for what data you need access to empower your own land, agriculture, or climate planning, and then what future webinar topics would be helpful. Like I said at the beginning of this webinar, we have a lot of resources on our site, and we know that the video format can be especially helpful to people. I think also seeing humans on a screen that are available to help you troubleshoot and answer any questions you have can be helpful too. So please feel free to fill in any answers you have to those questions. We'd love your feedback. And yeah, let us know if you have any questions about the Cropland data layer, about using that data for your own planning purposes. I do see there's a note in our Q&A box about summary information being provided, I assume by NASS, National Agriculture Statistics Service for Tribes. And that's true. A lot of these data sets sometimes do come with summary info for tribal geographies. Really what we're doing is just trying to build these interactive interfaces that provide direct access to the data, allow a level of exploration and kind of cross-referencing, like I was saying with the change over time. Being able to reference the map and see, where those changes are happening, understanding those trends. And then as Ode said, being able to build off that data set with other data sets, other data layers to perform analyses. So yeah, I don't know if that fully answers that comment, but it's similar with our first webinar on the USDA Census of Ag for American Indian reservations. Obviously, that's a big document that's published. People can go look at the document itself to see the numbers for their reservation. But our work is trying to provide that greater access to that data and make it a lot easier for tribes to to access and interact with and perform analyses, stuff like that. So.
I guess something we could add as well is that, in regards to the way that these summary statistics are usually provided, they're oftentimes provided in a very kind of static, static images, flyers kind of format. So lacking that interactivity that Emma was talking about, that's one. The second thing is that for all of the enriched tools that we build, we don't operate in a vacuum. We don't operate alone. We are a grassroots-based organization. We've been around for 30 plus years, and we work with major stakeholders in Indian country. And these long-term partners have been really instrumental in defining and helping refine all of the data priorities and all of the needs that we've identified and prioritized in this project. And so that's really something to understand, is that this really takes place in what we call our ecosystem of partner, but really long-term relationships and a lot of work around trust building and around helping really build this feedback loop that all of our data tools are based upon. And actually, you contributing to the survey today really helps also in this. So that's a small but very important contribution for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to all who've been answering. We look forward to reviewing those, and we'll be doing more webinars moving forward. This is the end of this little Keystone Data Tools series, but you can keep an eye out. We've provided our contact info, our social media. We have a newsletter list as well, if you're not already in that, where we send out periodic updates about what we're up to. So you'll be hearing from us more in the future as well. But yeah, thank you all. We'll just continue to hang out in case anyone has any questions, but I think this kind of marks the end of our presentation. Yeah, I see a question came in from Paula about the Rosebud Sioux tribe. If you want to reach out to us, we can schedule a meeting with you and kind of talk about what data you're looking for. We can definitely help you navigate the data tools on our site. In terms of yeah, I don't know, maybe you're logged in with someone else's Zoom account. In terms of data created by natives for natives, we understand that's a major need. We can help on a contract basis with processing, and in the past we've even helped gather data. It depends on the kind of data. What we do primarily with these public resources is we're using public data sets. As Ode acknowledged, we know that those public data sets have limitations for tribes because they're not produced typically with tribal priorities in mind. But really what we're trying to do is fill a gap where these public data are created, but aren't made as accessible as they could be to tribal communities. And so we try to fill that gap. But there is a whole conversation to be had about, yeah, data gathered by tribes for tribes with tribal values in mind. So yeah, if you want to email us, we'd be happy to connect and see if we can help. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, Ode, but.
I'm actually answering somebody in the chat, but I can see it's a little similar to what we just said. So, but Paula, please don't hesitate to reach out. Our email is info@nativeland.info. I can see you dropped yours as well. I can definitely shoot you an email so we can further talk about this. Emma, I can see that the attendance list is slowly dropping. Maybe if there's no further questions, we can.
It's a question about contracts.
Sure.
Yeah, we have kind of a flat fee for basic data processing, but then if we're building kind of a custom contract, it would depend. I don't think we have cost information online. Is that right?
No, we don't because so obviously there's all of the resource that you could use on the NLIS, and our services could range from really adjusting these tools for your specific needs and purposes to conducting a full-on research that can last 6 months or a year, or depending on your needs. So we really work on a customized quote basis, but feel free to reach out to us if you need any of those customized services.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Please feel free to reach out and see how we can help. All right, yeah, I think we'll probably wrap up unless anyone has any final questions. Thank you all so much for your questions. Thank you for attending. And yeah, you'll hear from us soon. We'll be sending a follow-up with the link to this recording, and you can keep an eye out for future webinars. All right.
Thank you,
Thanks all.
everyone.